All right, we're 2 months away from the NFL football season when week one of the preseason kicks off. NFL expert Pete Prisco from CBS releases top 100 players. Quick snapshot of his rankings. The top five go like this: Aaron Donald, Aaron Rodgers, Mahomes, Josh Allen, Cooper Kupp, Tom Brady right behind him at number 6. The Minnesota Vikings have 3 players represented in the top 100 club: Justin Jefferson at 13, Dalvin Cook at 41, and Harrison Smith squeaks in there at number 99. Let's start there before we get into the Packers, the NFC North, the entirety of the list. Reggie, Vikes have one of the best 13 players in the NFL in JJ. Pretty cool. He's the third-ranked receiver on the list behind Kupp and Devontae Adams. Dirty Harry, again, just squeaks in. Any quick takeaways from the Vikings' 3 players on the list?
It's interesting that his top 10, kind of after you get past like the quarterbacks and Kupp, like he's going defense, he's going offensive tackle, he's going cornerback with Jalen Ramsey. And it's so interesting too that on his list of top 100 players is JJ at the third wide receiver on the list. But JJ couldn't get any first team all-pro consideration. It's kind of weird to see that. It's like, well, if he's the third best receiver in the league, why couldn't he get any love? I mean, where's Debo? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't he behind Debo on this list? And I think it's interesting too that, just after one rookie year, Micah Parsons is right behind Justin Jefferson. You're like, wow, okay, that's what we're doing. I think it's pretty justified, the 3 players. I think for the novice of the population that, they know about the Vikings, but they don't know about the Vikings. I think these are the 3 players that you would probably expect to be on here.
Teams that make the playoffs, go deep in the playoffs, just tend to get a little bit more love, a little bit more spotlight on specific players too that can get highlighted a little bit more. Touching on the NFC North, check this out. Packers have 5 guys on the list. What's scary, they would have had 6 had they not traded Devontae Adams, who landed number 11 on the list. Goes like this: Rodgers 2, Jair Alexander 25, Devondre Campbell 63, Rashawn Gary 64, and Kenny Clark 92. 4 defensive players in the top 100.
Sheesh.
They just added 2 more first-rounders to the mix. They lose Devontae. Just how different is the identity of this Packers team going to seem when we sit down and watch them turn into a defensive-led unit? Or is this still the Aaron Rodgers show, and it just really doesn't matter who's lined up out wide for him?
So it's always going to be the Aaron Rodgers show as long as he's there. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the strength of the team. This team has gone through a considerable makeover on offense. They lose Devontae. They bring in Sammy. They draft Christian. I think what's interesting to see is the team is always going to be like an Aaron Rodgers team. As long as he's there, their identity is always going to be through them. But, as we kind of saw with Peyton Manning, I don't think Aaron Rodgers' like skills are eroding like Peyton Manning's did down the stretch in Denver. But, Peyton Manning was still Peyton Manning. So as long as he was out there, like he was going to be the guy that people were going to be talking about, that people were going to be focusing on. But Peyton Manning was burnt pie his last year in the league. Like he was barely getting those ducks out there. And
Noodle arm.
yeah, it really wasn't that fun to watch. But like that defense was nasty and it carried them. And look, a healthy A.J. Dillon, Aaron Jones, that running game is going to be dynamic. And Rodgers is going to do what he needs to do to keep the team in the game. And he's going to do some dynamic things because he's Aaron Rodgers and that's just what he does. But I think the team is really probably going to develop more as a defensive minded team, a defensive first team. And that's going to be a very great compliment to Aaron Rodgers because it's going to mean that he doesn't have to necessarily do everything to put them in positions to win.
It's a good comparison you bring up with that Peyton Manning Bronco-led Super Bowl champion squad, because you're right, Peyton was not the Peyton we were used to seeing, but that was a championship-style defense, number one in the league at the time, with a young Von Miller and a couple other studs in the mix. Packers kind of got the same thing going here. Little blueprint. Rodgers get a little long in the tooth, probably his last 2-3 years in the league, at least at this peak Rodgers we're used to. And they're just going heavy defense, man. 4 in the top 100. They had 2 more first-rounders into the mix. And that's without guys like Darnell Savage, who was a first-rounder, and a couple other, pretty rock-solid guys defensively that didn't necessarily crack the top 100 list. Rest of the NFC North, the Bears, the Lions, not that fun to look at if you're one of those teams fans this morning. The Bears and Lions have a combined 1 player on the list, 22 starters, 2 ball clubs, that's 44 starters, and 1 guy makes the cut. You want to guess who it is? Take a stab.
On the Bears?
Yeah, which 1 guy made the top 100 list from the Bears or Lions team?
I'm thinking it's going to be defense. I'm thinking he's a former St. Louis Ram.
Getting warmer, heating up.
How about
hot.
Robert Quinn for 100?
Bing. Robert Quinn for the Bears at 72. That's it, though. The Bears, of course, traded away Khalil Mack. He's 43 on the list, but no Roquan Smith. No, for the Lions, T.J. Hawkinson, Frank Ragnow, Taylor Decker, Penei Sewell. Remember, we talked about the PFF's offensive line rankings, and the Lions came up 3rd on that list, yet not one single guy from that unit cracked Prisco's top 100 players. So too bad. Better luck next year, I guess. Chargers had the most of any other team on the list with 9 guys. Justin Herbert, Derwin James, Bosa, Mack, Keenan Allen, Corey Linsley, Austin Eckler, J.C. Jackson, and Rashawn Slater, who was just a rookie last year. When you look at the list as a whole, what else sticks out to you? Any big surprises, obvious snubs, guys ranked way too high, too low? I know you mentioned defensive heavy, some tackles, Micah Parsons. Anything else jump out at you?
You know, it's interesting. I'm looking at number 59, and they got Creed Humphrey in here.
That's what I was going to mention. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, like a rookie. And they're already calling him one of the best centers in the league when the Vikings have one of the best right tackles in football that didn't make the list. And Brian O'Neill, I think that was probably an obvious snub for me. But like I said, if you don't really follow the Vikings that much, and especially being that, they didn't, make the playoffs, make too much of a splash, just middling team, 500 about team. Like, I think that's probably one of the reasons why, more Vikings didn't get any love. I think maybe some consideration could have been given to like Eric Kendricks. How about maybe even Kirk Cousins? Right. I know he's a little bit of a lightning rod sometimes to talk about, but
top 5 statistically a lot in a lot of categories every year.
With those stats, man, I would have put him on this list. But, with who is on here, I think it's kind of hard to kind of say like, okay, who comes off the list if he's on the list. And also I think it's interesting too, Adam Thielen had a pretty solid year last year, double-digit touchdowns, and for some reason he gets left off the list, and a guy like DeAndre Hopkins gets put on the list, and he only played in 10 games last year. And I understand like DeAndre Hopkins is one of the best receivers in football, but we always talk about how Thielen is underrated by a lot of people. And he just goes out there and just makes plays, and one of the most productive receivers in the league. He couldn't get any love on this list either.
Vikings fans probably banging the table for those guys you mentioned, Brian O'Neill, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen. All I think could make a strong case for making that top 100. You mentioned some young guys on there. Micah Parsons, top 15 in the league already. Unbelievable defensive rookie season last year. Rashawn Slater sitting there at 60. Jamar Chase cracked the top 20 as well. But you highlighted my guy I was going to mention, Kansas City Chiefs, used the last pick in the second round to select center Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma. All he does is go on to put up apparently the best center season of anyone else in the league as a rookie. He's already a top 60 player in the league, as you mentioned, at 59. pretty wild. Rashawn Slater right behind him. He had an outstanding rookie season last year. I know a lot of draft nerds like myself were hoping he'd fall to the Vikings. Turned out to be a great year last year to draft an offensive lineman, though. Vikes fans hoping, of course, Christian Darrisaw can continue to develop into the first-round pick we saw flash last season when he finally got healthy. My biggest snub, my only knock, and I can't imagine putting together a top 100 list. Oh, my God.
It's tough.
22 starters on
It's
each
tough.
team, 32 teams. Forget about it. But
Yeah.
Quentin Nelson at 37, I'm telling you right now, maybe he had a little bit injury-plagued season last year, but Quentin Nelson is one of the best offensive
absolutely.
linemen in the entire NFL.
Yeah.
If you were to go back and do a redraft of that class, he should probably go top 3. And that's saying something because playing a guard position is not sexy. It's not fun. You don't get talked about a lot. But Quentin Nelson is peak offensive lineman. That's what you want in your offensive lineman. I'm excited to watch him bounce back this year. I think if I was doing a top 100 list, he'd have to make my top 10, if not even top 5. That's how high I am on
He's just
Quentin
nasty,
Nelson, man.
man.
He's just a beast, man. A
Grinder.
bully in a phone booth.
Yeah.
Man. Absolutely love him. And love when he gets a little bit of attention because, again, guard positions, they're not going to get talked about a lot. Quentin Nelson, though, you can flip on some highlights of him. Even him as a guard is pretty fun to watch.
Tossing people out the club, man.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah, you don't even have to pay him. Yeah, I know I don't work here. No, I don't work here. I just do this for fun on the weekends. Yeah, a little light workout.